Today I'm going to talk about the bright future skilled migration has in this country, despite the challenges of the COVID-19 pandemic has placed before us. Over the last 23 years since starting Australian Immigration Law Services, I must have spoken to over 100,000 people about their prospects for migration to Australia. Back in the beginning, Australia could not even fill its quota for skilled migrants, and there was a fierce competition from the United Kingdom, Canada, and the US. After the 9/11 attacks on the US, Australia was inundated with prospective migrants looking for a migration pathway, as this country was seen as a safe haven from the world's troubles, particularly terrorist attacks. Before 9/11, it used to be easy to help people get their permanent residency. Simply a year of study in Australia could result in a successful visa outcome. How times have changed since. With a massive demand and pressure from a growing population, immigration law has become increasingly rigid and exclusive. Before the COVID-19 pandemic even started, the system was already very competitive, where 90 points was the norm to gain an invitation for the 189 visa, despite the minimum requirement of only being 65 points. With so many applicants and a limit to visas granted, only the best, highest scoring candidates were chosen. But at least you could get a visa. Now it is even more restrictive, with the 189 visa pathway just a shadow of its former self. Due to the pandemic, the government has changed its course, focusing on the majority of the migration intake to be used for partner visas, and this has made the points-tested visas more difficult to obtain. However, today I want to give you a message of hope that this will turn around quickly once the Australian community is fully vaccinated, and the hesitancy to open its borders will be a thing of the past. When the global financial crisis began in 2007, the government used migration program to boost the Australian economy, and it is very likely the same will happen again. Australia will be seen as one of the few remaining places on Earth which will be relatively COVID-19 free. Again, it is seen as a safe haven to migrate to. When the borders open, student visas will begin to be granted en masse. Working holiday visa holders will rush in along with the visitors as well. Already the UK and the Australian governments have struck a deal to increase the age cap and flexibility of the Working Holiday Maker program. With Australia already experiencing a shortage in skilled migrants, the government has, in response, expanded the priority migration skilled occupation list. The list is for those with critical occupation to receive an exemption and travel into Australia while borders are otherwise closed. When borders fully open, more will flood in on the employer-sponsored 482 visa pathway. It will also only be a matter of time for those skilled workers already here in Australia on temporary visas, currently working in their occupations, to get an advantage in the skilled migration system. Hopefully the government will also show compassion for all those temporary resident visa holders out there to return to Australia first, and where necessary grant them extension on their visas to finish the pathways they have already started in Australia. Some states are already looking to open for offshore applications. Slowly but surely, skilled immigration will become the priority. At the end of the day, it is business that drives the economy, and the business leaders will demand a higher migration intake to get the economy rolling again. So today I'm just getting the message out there that there is hope on the horizon, despite the current lockdowns in place, and many people cannot see that hope is returning. It is a message I give to people when I do consultations all the time. Once the pandemic is behind us, the future of skilled migration in Australia will be extremely bright, and that day is coming sooner than you may expect. The sense of relief when life can return to normal again will produce a significant bounce back in the economy, and nobody is going to be complaining about more skilled migrants being allowed to assist in that process. If you want to learn more about what we do, visit our website at australiavisa.com. Learn about me and our consultants and the services we provide. You can also join us on Facebook. We hope to see you there. Don't forget to subscribe before you go, and turn on that notification bell so we can let you know when there's good news coming. As always, take care out there, and I will see you next time. So bye for now. To many, Australian citizenship is the ultimate achievement of a long, difficult struggle of the visa and migration maze of Australian immigration laws. The good news is that once you get to become an Australian permanent resident, the last stage of your journey is not so difficult. There is no age requirement to become a citizen of Australia, and if you're over 60 years of age, then you do not need to sit the citizenship test. So there's some benefits of getting older. Most of you will need to meet the general residency requirement to apply for citizenship. When you apply, you must be able to demonstrate all of the following. Living in Australia on a valid visa for the past 4 years, and this includes bridging visas while you've been waiting for decisions here. Be a permanent resident or eligible New Zealand citizen for the past 12 months before you apply. In the last 4 years before you apply, not being absent away from Australia for no more than 12 months in total. And in the 12 months before you apply, not spent more than 90 days in total away from Australia. So that's the basics. Now, if you cannot meet these basic requirements, the Immigration Minister has the discretion to decide about certain elements of these residential requirements. Here are some examples. Some periods spent outside of Australia may still be counted towards lawful residence, such as if you have spent time outside of Australia as a permanent resident with your Australian citizen spouse or partner, or if you are the surviving spouse or partner of an Australian citizen and have a close and continuing association with Australia, if you have spent time outside of Australia and are a permanent resident in an interdependent relationship with an Australian citizen, and you've had close and continuing association with Australia. If you are older than 18, the Immigration Department must also be convinced that you are of a good character. This test of character is important, for the government will determine if you are the type of person who will uphold the values that Australians hold dear. When they assess your good character, they will consider whether you are likely to uphold and obey the laws of Australia and meet any other commitments made through your citizenship pledge. The department will consider any recorded criminal convictions, obligations you may have in a court to Australia or overseas, your association with people of concern, incidents of reported domestic violence, whether you've been honest in your dealings with the Australian community, including providing false or misleading information in relation to a visa or citizenship application. The existence of a criminal record does not mean that you will automatically be assessed as not of a good character. Each case is assessed on its own merit. It is your interest to provide full and accurate details in your citizenship application, for there is an excellent chance they will find out anyway, and if they do and you didn't disclose it, well, that may set the scene for a refusal. One word of warning when applying for citizenship: if you have any skeletons in the closets that perhaps up till now the department hasn't come across, such as providing any false or misleading information when you gained your permanent residency, quite often they do find things out when you apply for citizenship. This will often not only lead to your citizenship being refused, it can also lead to your permanent residency being cancelled. If this perhaps sounds like your situation, then my best advice is either not to apply for citizenship at all, or wait a very long time until you do, for at least then it's harder for them to cancel your permanent residency. On that fascinating note, thanks for watching today, and of course we have not covered all the regulations regarding the complex matter of citizenship. Today we're going to talk about the impact of the 50% reduction on people entering Australia may have on visa processing, the changes in state and territory sponsorship programs, changes in visa laws, pricing increases for applications, and more. Thanks for tuning in, and if you're interested in our monthly news edition along with all the other fascinating immigration content we create, subscribe to this channel. The recent news about the 50% reduction in people allowed to enter Australia is likely going to impact the processing of offshore visa applications, even if the government does not officially announce this. To continue to grant permanent residency to people outside of Australia will increase pressure upon the numbers allowed to enter Australia without travel permission. Already we're seeing a disparity between offshore 190 visa applicants who have been waiting for more than a year for their visas to be granted, whilst our onshore clients recently been granted their 190 visa in about 1 month. We do not expect changes, however, to offshore partner visa applications or parent visa processing due to the 50% reduction of people allowed to enter Australia. Western Australia surprised everybody last week by announcing its new pathway for sponsorship in a much broader occupation range that was not covered before. The changes mean you only need a job offer in your nominated occupation for 12 months by a Western Australian company to secure sponsorship for the 491 visa. The range of occupations are quite broad, and importantly for all of those accounting students out there, you're on the list as well. We'll be making an updated video about Western Australia's sponsorship shortly. The ACT has introduced small business owner benefits into its Canberra matrix by giving 20 points if your business has been operating for 12 months in Canberra and meeting certain requirements. It's not a program on its own like South Australia, Queensland and Tasmania. However, who in their right mind would go to Canberra to open a small business just to try and obtain state sponsorship, when the ACT can change its fairly limited critical skills list without notice? We think Canberra may have to rethink its strategy if it seriously wants to attract small business owners to their territory. More about this when we update our Canberra Matrix video. Victoria has changed its sponsorship program, now focusing on applicants working in their target sectors with STEM skills. These target sectors include health, medical research, life sciences, digital, agri-food, advanced manufacturing, and new energy emissions reductions and circular economy. The good part is that you don't need to be working for any particular period of time, but it's still fairly restricted and vague about what occupations can actually meet their requirements. The South Australian Government released its new occupation list and requirements on the 14th of July. Offshore hopefuls now have a number of critical skilled occupations to choose from in specific trade and health occupations. You can see these occupations listed here. If it fits you, you must submit a registration of interest to the South Australian Government if you meet the published requirements for your occupation. Most of them need at least 5 years of work experience in the last 8 years, and other requirements vary, such as minimum points required, English and visa subclass available. For those of you onshore, the requirements for many occupations have changed compared to the last financial year. You need to check your particular occupation to see if any of the requirements have altered. On the 22nd of June, the government increased the number of occupations dramatically on the Priority Migration Skilled Occupation List, the PMSOL. 22 occupations were added, including chefs, accountants, engineers, nurses, and many ICT professionals. Unfortunately, this list has not been applied to the processing of points-based skilled visas, such as the 189, 190, or 491 visas. However, that may change in the future, so let's see. The usual increase in visa fees on the 1st of July were observed, with quite a number above the CPI level. In particular, to apply to the AAT now for a review will set you back $3,000, and a citizen application to $490, nearly double. With this increased fee to become an Australian citizen, will this mean the Australian government will come to your aid to bring you safely back to Australia when you're in trouble? I think you all know the answer to that one. The Working Holiday Visa program has seen a few changes recently which are worth highlighting. Working holiday makers working in the tourism and hospitality sectors anywhere in Australia may now work up to 12 months with the same employer or organisation without requesting permission. Work undertaken in the tourism and hospitality sectors in the northern remote or very remote Australia can also be counted as specific work experience towards the eligibility for a second or third working holiday maker visa. This option will be available for applications lodged from the March 2022. From March 2022, eligible current and former working holiday makers in Australia will also be able to apply for the visa for free. This will encourage many working holiday maker visa holders to continue to stay in Australia and assist with the skills shortages. The Business Investment and Innovation Program has streamlined down to 4 visa subclass 1AA categories. They are now Investor, Significant Investor, Business Innovation, and Entrepreneur. We'll provide the official Immigration Department comparison of the old and new streams, which also has a useful brief description of the requirements of each. You can find this link in the description below. Well, that's enough updates for now, and stay tuned for next month's edition of Australian Immigration News.